Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm back at it again with another tale. We are getting into the spooky season, so I'm hoping to tell you some more spooky tales. I recently gave a talk at the library. I got some interesting first-hand documents from a source about Sasquatch, so I'll probably put out that video in like a week or two after I review those first-hand accounts I received. Pretty rare stuff. I'm pretty excited to look through that. The talk went really good. Some of this B-roll footage you're looking at, I went and I found the base of that waterfall from the video I did a couple weeks ago. Me and my son and my exchange student that is staying with me, we bushwhacked down to the base of the waterfall and found that unnamed waterfall, and it was amazing. Everything you could ever wish for. The trek down was a little treacherous. There was some spots that were a little dicey, a little adventure-y, but nothing too bad. And we made it down to the base. I had a swim. I explored a cave that was there, which I'm sure you'll see in the footage. Inside that cave was a strange box and like what looked like a coffee cup, but there was no trail down there and nobody appeared to be down there. I wish I would have checked that stuff out closer, but at the time I just dismissed it as trash until I had hiked back up a really hard like cliff part where there's a landslide. I scurried up this landslide, and then I was thinking, I was like, who would leave a coffee cup in a little box? And then I kind of wanted to go back down and check that out, but we had already gone pretty far and the boys were kind of not in the mood to go back because, like I said, it was relatively sketchy. There was a part where you had to walk by an edge of a cliff, and then there's a part where you had to scurry down a landslide. So they did not enjoy that. They didn't want to go back and check out that cup in that box or whatever it is. I don't know if it was a cup, but very strange that that would be in a cave in a remote area like that. But the main point of this video, besides this B-roll, is I just recently finished a book called The Perilous Journey of the Donner Party. And in that book, I love the Donner Party, by the way, and this goes back to my Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe trip in that video. I wish I would have been able to make it to the Donner Park and seen the monument that they have there. And while I was researching that video, it turns out that the monument base is how deep the snow was during the Donner Party expedition that got stranded there in the high Sierras by Tucky Lake. And I mean, it was like, I want to say it's like 30 feet high. So they were pretty stuck in. But reading this account, most of it was firsthand journal entries by some of the members, and specifically one of the young teenage girls that was on that trip. And it had me thinking of my other video about are wild men Sasquatch? Wild people, are they Sasquatch? And then I mentioned in that video that maybe the wild people were different than Sasquatch, and it had me thinking about Wendigos. And if you don't know what Wendigos are, they're kind of evil spirits that used to be men that take on monstrous proportions after they become cannibals. And the reason why I was thinking of that, the Wendigo's been a well-known folklore in America all over, but specifically Native Americans had a lot of accounts of their tribe members getting lost and resorting to cannibalism, and then they become these terrifying Wendigo creatures, and they get elongated limbs and they kind of get skeletal type appearances, and they roam the wilderness basically looking for their next victim. And I had actually heard, I do a lot of research, watch a lot of YouTube videos, so The Donner Party actually had a member named Louis Keseberg, and he is a suspected Wendigo, or a lot of people called him a ghoul. And so Louis was one of the members of the Donner Party, and he was from Germany. And if you're not familiar with the Donner Party, 80 immigrants roughly got stranded. They set out too late. They got stranded in the high Sierra Nevadas, and basically they got stuck in there. And a lot of them resorted to cannibalism, don't get me wrong, and some of them even murdered some Native American guides and were pretty ghoulish in that. But specifically, Louis Keseberg stands out because he had the potential to be rescued on 2 separate occasions. The first time they came, he supposedly was too injured to be moved. He had hurt his foot on an axe, but I had also heard some accounts of the rest of the rescuers saying that they were just too disgusted by the cannibalism that he had done, and the accounts of the other survivors that begged them not to take him with. And there was an account I found where he had killed a young boy that was only 1 and hung him on his wall with like a meat hook, and then proceeded to fillet him and eat him. And so the first group refused to take him, even though he was injured, and that's the official reason why they don't take him. But there was a lot of pleading from the survivors that they didn't want to go with this guy because of the terrible things he had done and eaten the people in a especially gruesome manner. And like I said, just the callousness of it, it was almost like he was enjoying it as the time went on. And so a couple weeks later, the second rescue party came up there, and they rescued some more people, and Lewis's foot was still messed up. That's still the official reason he didn't want to travel, because of his foot, but he was in a lot better health than many of the other people because he had just been eating so much human flesh. And they almost say he was like stronger and healthier and just like acting really erratic. And he had a really like scary demeanor about him, starting to take on kind of these monstrous proportions. They were really like scared of him. They didn't want to travel with him. And he kind of had not only just eaten people to survive, but eaten people because he had started to enjoy that. And they found just bones and skulls split open, and I mean, quite a mess there. And so then when he finally got rescued was actually the 3rd time, which I find this interesting too. It was actually on my birthday. It was April 17th, 1847. And that's another weird coincidence. But the last rescue party went up there and they found George Donner's skull cracked open, and then next to it in a pot was his brain. And there were some footprints next to it. And so the next day they followed that, and guess who they found? Old Louis Keseberg. And he was even more ghastly and grotesque. And, you know, they described him as like a monster almost. And the rescuers were so mad that they didn't even want to rescue him. And they had thought he had murdered this other woman named Tamsin Donner and eaten her. And on that second expedition, she had been relatively healthy, but she didn't want to leave her husband who was sick. And lo and behold, they found a pot full of her heart and organs there in Lewis's camp. And he was getting ready to eat her, and they accused him of murder. One of the rescuers swore to kill him. And at this point, he was very much just kind of a ghoulish type figure. He could still communicate, but just had kind of gotten stronger from eating all these dead bodies, not an emaciated, starving person, but actually physically big and strong and healthy and just ghastly type ghoulish figure. But they did end up rescuing Lewis. He had also tried to steal the Donner's money. So, what is her name here? So Tamsin Donner had about $225 in gold coins. So that's equivalent of about $3,000, $3,800 in today's money. And old Lewis, after being searched, he had tried to hide that money and get away with that money. So that was not looking well for him. And the rescuers wanted to kill him right there on the spot, but cooler heads prevailed, and they decided to bring him back down the mountain to face charges. Well, Lewis never faced charges. There wasn't enough evidence. They thought that he swore that the Donner woman died of natural causes before he ate her, and he ended up suing those rescuers for slander that said he was ghoulish and Wendigo-esque and delighting in his cannibalism, and had actually been getting stronger and wasn't starving. He was like, in shape, tough, strong, really kind of out of it though, and acting really erratic behavior. So he never did face charges for that. He got the nickname the Cannibal of Donner Pass, which I find interesting, and he actually was well known to brag in local saloons years later that human flesh was better than any California cattle. And he actually said, and this is a quote, he said, Tamsin Donner's liver was the sweetest bite he had ever tasted. So he was bragging to bar patrons about enjoying the flesh of his victims. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Was Lewis Keseberg, was he a ghoul, a Wendigo? Do you think they should have left him behind? Do you think that the rescuer should have killed him in the snow there like they wanted to? And again, they found just terrible ghoulish things. First-hand encounters. The survivors didn't want him saved because of the ghoulish ways he was eating flesh. And with that story, hey, happy spooky season, and I'll see you guys in the next video.